Rich Shea here, unboxing Mission to Planet Hexx, designed and created, published by Jim Fitzpatrick, self-publishing thing. Now, usually I don't cover games this small, and it's not in my wheelhouse for games, but I've been following this one for a few years, and I've played it. It's a fun game. I picked it up, so I thought I would just show it off a little bit. So here's the rule book. They call it a retro-style game. I think that refers more to the art than anything else. You mostly play with a bunch of hex-shaped cards. One of them is your mission, where you have to collect or upload 6 different cards. Basically, there's 5 different kinds of cards in the game, and each person has a slightly varied one, and you get 2 of one and 1 of each of the others. Aliens, dilemmas, objects, planets, and empty space cards that you collect. So you basically go around and you get some cards. You take 3 actions on a turn. The actions could be you do something on the map where you move, and then wherever you end up, you may be doing something on a planet where you might take data, which is what you have to collect in order to upload cards out of your hand to win the game, or go to space hexes, which is where you go to do the uploading, and other things happen. The space action is playing a card out of your hand and building a tableau on the board for everyone to share of spaces and planets, with planets not usually next to each other. A move action, you roll the dice, which limits how far you can move on your turn, and then you move on the map created out of space and planets, stopping at any planet that you enter. That ends your turn. You could run out of movement spaces. There might be reasons you want to stop somewhere else. When you stop on a planet, you collect data, if any, which are cubes on the planet. Typically you collect 1. Sometimes special rules do other stuff. There might be things on there that let you either add or spend data on a map spot. And so you have to look at the icons, which could be collect, which is different than the 1 data, maybe. What happens if you move through, what happens if you stop, and what happens if you start. So each of the hex cards has a very different thing. I don't think there are any duplicates. And then there's data movement icons. The third action is upload, which are in space. You can spend 3 cubes to take a card out of your hand and put it on the tableau next to your mission card in a matching space. Okay, there might be other ways you can upload things, wacky things on cards. The fourth kind of action you can take is a refresh, where you just discard 1 card out of your hand, draw the top card from the deck. The fifth thing you can do is the event. A number of cards have events. They say event, and you can just play it for the event, and the event happens. Event effects only last 1 turn. There are normal events where it just says what's going on. Surprise events that you can play out of your hand in response to somebody else playing an event. Okay. And then you can use a surprise to respond to a surprise, but I don't think it stacks any higher than that. There are things that can happen: drawing, dumping, rolling the die, getting more cards, and at the end of your turn, you either draw or discard down to your allowed hand size, which is typically, I believe, 6, but is possible to change. The first person to get their 6 objectives connected wins the game. You can play, and probably should play, till everybody's had the same number of turns, and then figure out what's going on. There's some summary stuff on the back. There's a bunch of completing the icons on the things. The game has, these are for data. I believe you use that for 5s or 10s, and those are singles. I guess I would use 5s with that number. Okay. Because you get 3 actions on a turn, each of the players gets a stack of 3 plastic action tiles, so you can put them on your data card and take them off as you take an action. There are also a couple of cards that require player-specific markers, so you would end up using them for that instead. It's also possible to have more than 3 actions at a time. These are usually convenient, but not definitive for the whole game. There's one die for moving, with the one just has a planet on it. I don't think it means anything special, except that it's usually a terrible die roll. And then each player has their own little rocket ship that they can move around in the color, in their player color, that matches their tokens. The you can see the Hexx cards. So now I'm almost back. So you can see that each of the cards has a piece on the top to show, typically these are maps, space. These are the player's mission file cards. You see this one requires 2 aliens and 2 of these and 1 of each of the others. So I was wrong about that. They're all very different. And they're also different on the back. So there's a lot of different missions beyond space. And apparently if you put in the titles of the cards and read the sentence, you'll get a funny story. Like, the binary moon is quite spectacular, famous for having, and you need some object thing there. So you end up like with a report. One proposed tiebreaker is whoever has the funniest report wins. Okay, so you can see planets are marked with a planet. This one's a little different, being the binary moon. This one, the black sphere, it starts with 9 cubes on it that people 9 data. Okay, and it has a special feature. When you land, dump that many hexes, collect 3 data for each space hex that you dumped. So some of the cards can get quite convoluted. The Citadel of Foom, Cyberplanet Forge. These are space, an asteroid field. This one might be a mess. Yeah, if you end your move landing on a planet, add 1 to your data store. All right. So that's if you move through the asteroid field, you can get a bonus. So there are a lot of those. More mission cards. Here's an event. Okay, this is an alien event. Telepathic polyps. You get an additional action, but an opponent of your choice shows their hand, and use that player's hand as your hand for the rest of the turn. And then drive them both up to 6. So wacky things happen. Other events: standard issue space grenades, subtract 2 from a single planet of your choice. That's a surprise move. Disintegrating planet, another map, patrolled space. And then there's another stack of cards with more things. They're cards, they're, shuffleable. They play. Now, I played the game. Not everything in this game is in my wheelhouse. But one of the things the designer points out is it's your game. Take out cards, alter cards. He said, write on them if you want. There's a fair amount of take that in the game. And I don't always love that in a game, because in a game that's essentially a race like this, it slows it down. People go after the leader and the game goes on and on. Or that's the way I feel. Now, in discussing this with the designer, he said his target audience, which may be younger people with more time in their hands than me, really like the take that aspect. And it's easy enough to modify it. In my mind, you could limit the effects of take back. One of the worst cards is the player who plays the card picks 2 other players, and those players basically battle off till one of them only has 1 data cube left, which I think is like not just take that, but take that and beat your friends with a stick. So maybe you just limit it to each of the players puts up 3 or 4 data cubes and they fight it out till somebody has only 1 left. Much less brutal, much less likely to add an extra half hour to the game. So feel free to make changes like that. Take out cards that you don't like, that you think are too mean, or maybe make cards meaner if that's really what you like. But I enjoyed playing the game. The strategy is interesting. Building the map is interesting. Movement's interesting. Trying to get the most out of your hand is interesting. I like many aspects of this game a lot, even though it's a small game. It's not super short. It's 30 to 90 minutes. I would say 90 minutes with a lot of take-back going on and 4 players. 30 minutes with 3 players, and maybe if you limited the take-back stuff. So it's a little past filler, but it's an interesting design, and I enjoyed my plays of it. So I hope this tells you a little bit about it, shows you what it's like, and if you're interested, you can find that in a lot of places now. I think it's available in the online game stores too, or you could look up the designer on Mission to Planet Hexx on Facebook. So thanks for watching. I'll be doing bigger games again soon. Bye for now.